I almost feel like I should whisper because it's so late at night when I'm making this. Hi, we are here for our anchor message for the week. I'm coming in after work, but also after a little party. We had a going away party for one of our coworkers who's moving across country to go on some more adventures, and so we were sending him off, and so I'm a little tipsy. We all love it when I make my videos a little tipsy. But yeah, I didn't want to miss our extended message for today, and I thought about leaving it for tomorrow, and I decided that we needed to come on and talk about it now. So it's all really interesting, especially after the energy forecast for the week and the full moon in Leo workshop. You may want to go watch the full moon in Leo workshop. It's long. It's like an hour and 16 minutes, but it's kind of a two-parter. Like if you wanted to watch the first half where I just talk about the energy through my channeled messages, like you could do that in one sitting, and then you could watch the reading in a second sitting. But just a lot is coming through, and I feel like we're being set up to start new cycles in our life. In our dreams, but probably also within our romantic lives. Things are probably evolving and shifting within your relationships that you're in that are existing. But also, if you're not in a relationship, I think that we are really being prepared for a new cycle to begin, so that when we meet someone next time, we're prepared to face and transcend our patterns. They will come up. We will be tested. It'll be the same themes and buttons and wounds that we've always had. But we have to be tested every time to see how strongly we've established ourselves within ourselves. You know, can we love without losing ourselves in another? Can we establish healthy boundaries? You know, can we also open up and be vulnerable and let someone in whilst, you know, holding our own identity? So let's talk about the cards for today. So I've been liking this thing where the anchor message comes from the wild unknown archetypes. I think this is great. So if you're just kind of joining us recently, on Sundays I'll do an energy forecast for the week, and so that's kind of like the energetic weather that we're going to be facing. It's like the conditions of the gauntlet that we're going to be walking through. But our anchor message on Monday is like, this is the homework for the week. This is our curriculum. These are the lessons we're going to be working with. And so I like to pull from the archetypes and then from the tarot as well. So from the wild unknown archetypes, we got Eros, we got Agape, and we got the unseen. Underneath Eros, we got the sun. Underneath Agape, we got Seven of Swords. And underneath Unseen, we got the Devil. And usually I feel like these cards are very like anchored with one another and they go in like a story, but these are all kind of differently connected. And so this is what I think is going on. I feel like I want to talk about the legend of Eros and Psyche, or the myth. But before that, because I think it ties in, but before that, I feel like, so the Sun card. The Sun is about awakening. It's about a new beginning. It's about a new beginning that's come at the end of, it's not like a fresh start or like a beginner, like a novice, like the fool. It's like a new beginning in the midst of a long journey, like a rebirth. It's awakening, it's illumination, it's enlightenment, it's joy, it's a sudden spark, you know, it's that spirit that becomes awakened in us, right? It's that bright shining sun. Leo, the Leo full moon that just has shone on us. So having this come under Eros, I feel like, because this Eros and love and agape, it's like love is the subject here, and it's our human romantic desire love, but it's also agape love, that connection to source, right? Here's that sort of spinal column, that where the kundalini rises through our consciousness from our root to our crown chakra. That's the physical mirror of this conscious connection. And so I think what's happening here is that in the midst of this conscious awakening, we are having this profound healing that's occurring that is bringing us into alignment with source, with divine, with this unconditional love. We've been talking a lot on this channel about the concept of eternal being not like a chronological linear time descriptor word, but being more like a state of unchangingness, of perpetual flow, of being unwavering. Like God is eternal, right? God is unwavering. God is consistent, always outpouring, right? It's not on or off. It's unconditional. It doesn't change. Cause consciousness versus effect consciousness. Cause is the seed level, is the cause of all the reality, right? And reality is the effect of the cause. So agape love is that connection to source that is always unchanging, that is always perpetual, that is never stopping. All we have, it's us, that we cut ourselves off because of our awareness, right? Or we turn our back, right? But we take our attention off, we take our connection. But source is always giving us agape love. And when we get in a lower state of consciousness too, we disconnect with it. When we're in a state of fear, we disconnect with that love. So we have this moment where we're up-leveling in our life and we're coming into unity with this divine love and this enlightenment. And it's also going to be reflected in this new start, right? We have a new chance to have an up-leveled version of experiences within our purpose, within our goals, within our career, but also within our love lives, within Eros. Because who do we have the deepest soul journey with, right? It's our lover, it's our partner, it's our soulmate, it's the person who's in the most intimate relationship with us. And this person is the ideal person for us, is going to be someone that is going to nurture and challenge us, that we can grow with together over time. So we do more work. We do more soul correction. We do more spiritual alchemy when we're with a partner. We evolve more. We grow more. We have to sacrifice more. We have to share more. We have to overcome ourselves more. So we can only go so far. Like, there's a time and a place and a benefit for being the hermit, for having sacred solitude. And boy, do I enjoy it. But there's a point where you can't learn certain facets unless you're learning them through the intimacy, through butting up against someone else's edge as well, and embracing them in that, and them embracing you in that. And so at every stage that we up level, we're always going to have an opponent, the devil here. It's going to up level with us. And it's going to antagonize us at every different level. I like to think of life, once you decide to be a spiritual student on the spiritual path, it's like you activate this game. We talked about it a few videos ago. It's like if you're a spiritual person, the game gets activated and suddenly there's like these challenges and they're connected with your lessons and like things get more intense. Like it's not like as easy as it is with people who aren't spiritual. It's like, why does everything just kind of fall into place for them and they can just have this easy time of it, just go through the motions and, not have too many highs or lows? And it's because we talked about this. They're like the Sims people. They're just in the simulation and they're just like doing the laundry and like walking into the wall and like we were talking about bumping fronts, like no big deal. But there's something that gets turned on when you decide to go on a spiritual path. And the adventure volume gets turned up because all of this, like these experiences and stimuli are coming at you to try to bring you to your growth edge and push you out of your comfort zone. And so every time you up level, every time you're like Mario and you make it to the next level, you're always going to have an equal up leveled opponent, right? You're always going to have to mush those little like bad guys. You're going to have to jump on them and then you get the coins and you're up leveled and you're big Mario and you're powerful. And so every time you transmute your fear and your insecurities and your doubts and your scarcity and your uncertainness or your indecisiveness, anytime you strengthen yourself and you push through these weaker parts of your personality, and you transcend that lower part of yourself and you expand into a higher state of consciousness, it's like you've squashed those little men and you just up level. And so you're revealing more sparks of light within yourself. But also at every level, it's like the challenges are going to get harder because your opponent is coming with you. And it's your opponent's job to stay with you and antagonize you to grow at every level by showing you exactly what your weaknesses are. Oh, you think you've come so far in this area? Look how quickly you're tempted into rage. Look how quickly you're tempted into lust. Look how quickly you're tempted into a binge or a starve or a whatever or a temper tantrum. Look how quickly you're tempted into manipulating a lover because you get high on the power or whatever your patterns are. Your opponent is always there, trying to get you to short circuit and freak out and lose your shit and self-defeating tendencies, going back to your old patterns, back to your old defaults. But the creator is using the opponent as a pawn only to strengthen you so you can break those shells of negativity and reveal more of your higher self, right? And become like that. Every time you crack those shells of negativity, it's like the veil between you and agape love becomes thinner and thinner. You become more united with it, permeates your being. And so at every level, you get these boons and these blessings and these new opportunities, but it also, at every level, there's going to be your opponent can't wait to try to trick you and fuck it up for you. And it really wants you to feel like you fucked it up for yourself. And so I think that the theme is coming up here is that this Seven of Swords card, this is your opponent trying to rob you of whatever your latest blessing is. Whether it's your joy, whether it's your abundance, whether it's your inner peace, whether it's a feeling of being proud of yourself and confident because you've come so far. And then maybe something happens to make you feel like, knock you off of the progress that you've made, right? The opponent, the enemy, always comes to try to rob you of something. One time, I used to smoke cigarettes some, and I wasn't ever a full-time smoker or anything, but I would smoke cigarettes sometimes. And I was at the fair several years ago, and my boyfriend at the time, my ex-boyfriend, he was a smoker. And so we were out at the fair, we were having a beer, I was smoking a cigarette, and this lady was like, girl, those are going to rob you of your beauty. And I was like, it never hit me like that. And I was like, oh, you're right. And that was like my last cigarette. I was like, I'm putting this out. I never smoked again. Like, I quit after that. I was like, you're so right. But it's so sneaky the way things will rob you of your time, rob you of your energy, rob you of your good mood, rob you of whatever. But it's always there, trying to siphon, trying to take, trying to see what it can get away with, what it can get past you, right? And so the opponent also uses other people around you that aren't aware, right? And pulls their strings to fuck with you. And it's the ego. It plays with you through your ego. And so how many times does the ego, feeling like the inner child feels vulnerable, so the ego is like, okay, cool, let's put up a false front. Let's put up a false mask. Let's hide who we really are. Let's put up a facade. Let's put on bravado. Or let's be evasive. Let's be withholding. Let's hold back. Let's punish that person by not showing our enthusiasm or how much we like them or what they're doing. I've had an ex-boyfriend that wouldn't even give me the satisfaction of laughing at something that I said that was funny, that he clearly would think was funny. Like, he didn't laugh with me for years, just out of bitterness, I guess. I just thought he was just clammed up in a bad mood. But I finally figured out over time that was just one of, the ways that he would just try to exert his, vengeance, his passive aggressiveness on me. And meanwhile, I have no idea that we have any problems. I was just like, what, I don't understand. Were you not paying attention? That was hilarious. So it's like that kind of shit. It's like those games, those manipulative, controlling games. It's like we're becoming more illuminated to that kind of thing. We're seeing more clearly through the enemy's games. And when the enemy is using people as pawns and puppets around us, and we're like, no, we don't play that. I'm seeing through your little dead bird over here. Fucking, this looks like, I don't know what kind of bird this is, but it makes me feel like this is a mischievous, something about this. I don't know. I've also been partying. It's late at night, so I went off on a tangent. But yeah, so this is warning us that as new opportunities come through, don't let doubting yourself and second guessing yourself ruin the whole thing, right? Have confidence that you've been prepared to be set up to this next level. And it's about stepping in and believing in yourself. We have unseen spiritual assistance and protection around us all the time. All we need to do is use our voice to ask for that. I've been praying even more this week, you guys. I've been reminded recently by my Kabbalah teacher, David, that prayers really aren't as powerful if we don't say them out loud, right? The Creator made us in a physical realm to express ourselves physically. The Creator could be in a silent void by Creator's self. Creator's I don't want telepathy. I want you to talk to me. Creator's love language is through physical expression. Through acts of service, right? So our words out loud, we need to say them. We need to pray. I've even prayed for my hair most days this week. And I mean, my God, I've had the best hair days of my life this week. My hair's not looking great right now because I've just been at work all night and also partying. But I've had some really good hair days this week. So you can pray about anything, but it really does work. So pray out loud for heaven to support you as you're going forward and you're up-leveling in your purpose and you're getting new opportunities. However, I feel specifically, because we've had so many soulmate cards come up recently, in every deck. And I was reminded too that we can have very brief encounters with people that don't even result in a successful relationship that are soulmate relationships, but they were there to be very triggering and and mirror something for us, right? I mean, sometimes we feel very strongly about people that pass through our lives very briefly, and there's a lot of tumultuous experiences and interactions with those people, and you're like, how is this, like, we didn't even know each other long enough to, you know, make that deep of an impact. But it's like, it's because they're divinely put on your path, and you were always supposed to feel for them and connect with them. They're there to evolve you as a catalyst for something, for some reason. It doesn't mean you're supposed to, like, lay down all your guard, you know, put down your guard and lay down all your boundaries and just let them in completely and, like, be enmeshed because you're soulmates. That's not an accurate understanding of what soulmates are for. I mean, sometimes we have successful romantic relationships with soulmates that are good, right? But, you know, not always. And many times it's just a mixed bag, because life is complex, right? It's not straightforward. It's not black and white. It's a myriad of shades. And so I think this is kind of preparing us for next time around when love presents. Because I think that when we've come to a certain point in our life and we've been in and out of relationships that some of them have completed on a lighter note, and some of them haven't ended so well, and some of them haven't gone so well. And so you're not like this totally innocent, open, vulnerable person to love anymore when eros presents itself, when desire, when that romantic spark gets ignited in you, and it ignites like a desire, you know, for something, like a fire. It's scary, because this kind of love puts one part of your mind to sleep, but it awakens your soul and your heart and parts of your spirit and parts of your mind, right? And so the one part of you feels very vulnerable, very, very out in the open, very exposed. And so that part of you can be wary, and it can question, and it can be suspicious, or a little bit defensive or on guard, right? Are you going to hurt me? Are you going to change me? Are you going to have strings attached? Am I safe with this desire, with this love? Or is it going to consume me? Am I going to lose myself in it? Is it going to ask too much or deny me who I am? And it is something that the devil loves playing with, because it causes people to get into these, instead of opening up and going into like these honest connections about these things, working through it, taking a look at it, you know, doing the work together. Instead, we put up these facades and a bunch of bravado and ego games and power plays and mind tricks. And sometimes it stokes desire. And if it's in balance, maybe it can be productive in some ways to keep the fire alive. But if it gets out of balance and it gets corrupt and it gets dark, then you're getting into the realm of manipulation and controlling and breaking people's spirits down over time and causing soul fragmentation. That's where the devil's like wreaks havoc, right? It's devil's playground when that happens. And so we have to be able to lean on agape love to be our source of comfort, validation, security. Because it's when we really rely on source that the desire doesn't own us anymore, because it's not our source of fulfillment, and we can walk away if it's toxic or dangerous or harmful, because we have agape that's surrounding us. I also think that we're being asked not to judge a book by its cover and reject what may not seem quite what we thought it would be, or may not be quite what it seems. Not to immediately reject it, but to on some level accept. And it doesn't mean that you give the keys over and let people in. It just means that as a society as a whole, I think we need to get better at being able to care about people and bring people into our friend group and things that don't necessarily agree with us or share the same thoughts or beliefs. I think we need to start learning how to sit next to each other and be tolerant again, like we used to before the internet. Before people exposed their every thought and opinion, we didn't know so much about one another, and people they got along. There wasn't so much division, there wasn't so much polarity and divisiveness. It wasn't perfect. I mean, there were problems, definitely. But it wasn't like people were like vicious and like at each other's throats like they are these days. And we've forgotten how to... We've put bubble wrap around ourselves. You know, even a Google search is only going to reflect back your own hermeneutic lens, because it's going to go by what you prefer in the search engine. So I remember this example given one time. It was like, if a left-wing person looks up Egypt in Google, it'll give you search results like great place to vacation. But like if a right-wing person looks up Google, it's like, it looks up Egypt on Google, it's like ISIS, blah, 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 like, you know, war, you know, all the themes. So it's interesting how like we blocked each other out, all of these people that maybe we don't see quite eye to eye with. It's like we've surrounded ourselves, or some people have, they've insulated themselves in people who are just an echo chamber for exactly the way that they think and feel and talk and say and think in the culture. And I'm really grateful for having spent so long in film production and TV as a freelancer, because I was always around different people, hundreds, thousands over a decade, you know? And so I was around people with all different beliefs and opinions and personalities and incomes and class systems, and I got to see everyone and see life, a little slice of it, in so many different walks of life. So I think we need to start building bridges again to practice agape love, to practice tolerance for people. But back to the eros thing. So I feel like there was one more point I was going to make, but I can't remember now. So I'll go on to the eros and psyche. I just read this like little myth recently, because I opened a book one day to do our post, and sometimes like I'll just have a feeling like I just channel like the things to grab for the picture, like spirits like grab that, or like go look in that book, open it up, and like you'll be at the right page. And like sometimes I'll open a book and it'll be like, no, it's not this page, and I'll flip it, I'm like, this feels right, and then I'll read it later, I'm like, oh my god. So one day this happened, and it happened to be the eros and psyche myth. And so it's a long story, but Psyche was like super beautiful, and she was kind of like magical in some regard, or like super wise, or maybe she's like an oracle. People were like enamored by her and in awe by her. But for some reason she was like cursed, and she like couldn't find love, and her parents couldn't marry her off. And it was like Venus, the goddess of love, was like had beef with Psyche because she was almost like rivaling her for like her beauty and majesty and like, you know, her wisdom and glory. And so Venus, in her beef, I think put out a hit on her, or like sent Eros, her son Cupid, to go like curse her. But when Cupid went to like, I'm getting the details fuzzy and they're kind of wrong, but broad strokes will be correct. So he went to enact this assignment from his mother, But, like, in the meantime, he, like, fell in love with her and took pity on her. He was sent to destroy her, but fell in love with her in the process. And he shot her with an arrow of love. I think it pierced her side. And she fell into a deep sleep. And maybe it was while she was asleep, he fell in love with her. But so at some point, while he fell in love with her, he negotiated to have her parents agree that if they give the daughter Psyche to Eros as his wife, like, they'll lift the curse, or he'll marry her, and so then she'll be taken care of or whatever. So they're like, okay, fine. Much to our, you know, chagrin, we bemoan this fate, but we're gonna give our daughter to this demigod or whatever. So Eros is invisible to Psyche, and when she goes to this realm, she gets, like, dropped off on this ledge, this cliff. And she's standing on the ledge looking over, and she's kind of in despair. She's like, oh my God, I'm at the end of my rope. Like, I'm being given to this person. I don't know who it is. Like, I don't know if he's, like, what kind of fate is this? Like, who just, like, negotiates to, like, have someone, and I'm going to leave my whole world behind. And, like, I don't know. It's like she's standing on the edge of oblivion. She's looking into uncertainty, leaving everything she's ever known, right? The Psyche, taking a leap of faith for love. And so this wind comes out of the west, out of the setting sun, the day that's over, the end of one level of consciousness. And the wind of spirit, the warmth wind, the warm wind of, it's not Holy Spirit, because Holy Spirit is female, but it's the spirit, right? And in this case, it was Eros, and he lifted her up off of this cliff, and he took her down and laid her in this valley. And then she woke up and found herself wandering into this lair. I can't remember if there's a cave or a mansion, but it's, like, filled with all these treasures, these beautiful treasures. And she's like, wow, it's like everything I've ever wanted. Like, is this all real? And she's like, am I like a prisoner? I don't even know, what have I wandered into here? And so every night, Eros would come to her, even though she was surrounded by everything she'd ever wanted, everything she'd ever dreamed of. And this masculine force would come to her every night and, like, have her and love her and have this passionate romance play out. But she could never see him. He wasn't tangible. He was elusive. And so she asked if she could see him, and he wouldn't appear to her. He just wanted her to trust that he was there. And so one night he was asleep, and she lifted up her lamp to take a glimpse at him to see, because she didn't know whether he was a monster. She didn't know whether she was she was like in the midst of a monster's lair. So she lifted up the lamp, and as it turns out, he was, like, gorgeous and beautiful. When she startled him awake, hot oil spilled all over him, ruined his face. He blew up in a rage. How dare you question me? How dare you not trust me? He exiled her, and then she wandered around in the wilderness alone, searching, banished from love, the Psyche, for, however long. She tried to go back to her old life. And then it wasn't until he finally suffered long and hard and couldn't bear the separation anymore, after months and months and months, or however long, that he went to find her. And they lived happily ever after, and they had a baby named Pleasure. But the point is that the mind, the psyche, the logical, guarded ego self doesn't trust desire. It doesn't trust that the danger of letting go, of trusting all of that feeling, all of that fragility and tenderness in the hands of something that you can't put your finger on. You can't touch it. It's ephemeral, right? It's got an expiration date at some point. And so we don't trust intimacy, and we don't trust what we can't see. And we get in trouble when we try to rely on believing in what we can see, because that's a false reality. The truth, the real reality, is the unseen. That's the seed level of everything that's made physical. The physical is unchanging. The physical is changing. It's always changing. It's always dying. It's the non-physical that can be unwavering. It's agape love that's trying to come into our lives that can be unwavering. When we had the fall of mankind and we separated from the unity of being completely one with source and having that oneness and that open connection with that super consciousness, that full 100, like full on dose of agape love at all times, we had complete trust. There was no friction. There was no problem for the psyche to be aligned with the heart, mind, soul, and strength, and trust in that love and allow the desire to come. But it was when we were made into two, the vessel had to separate from the light in order for the light to have vessel to share with. When we went into separation, it's that feeling of the separation that we're trying to close that gap always, that pain, that longing, right? But what we need to know is that it's the agape love that's already within us. There's nothing separate at all. So we're always just fighting ourselves with these ego games, with ourselves, with the other. And it's about correcting that and getting past that. I feel like there was something else that I was going to say. I think it slipped. I don't know. Maybe it was the fact that, like, I thought it was funny that this is unseen and Eros was unseen. There's something about, with desire. Desire is so important because desire is the seed level of manifestation of anything, of any creation. The light desired to share, so it created vessel. The light desired, so it separated. Isn't it the distance that we have from our lover that causes even more desire when we can step back and appreciate and observe, right? Yeah, that was interesting. All right, guys, I'm tired. I am gonna go to bed and I'm gonna get this uploaded real quick, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't have any content to make tomorrow. I can just relax and I can be all caught up, and then I will see y'all for our Totally Tuesday Manifestation Oracle reading tomorrow. All right, ciao.